P.J. Woods, The Inimitable Jeeves, Chapter 7, Introducing Claude and Eustace. The blow fell precisely at 1:45. Summertime. Spencer, Aunt Agatha's butler, was offering me the fried potatoes at the moment. I had been engaged to Honoria Glossop nearly 2 weeks, and during all that time not a day had passed without her moulding me. I had read solid literature till my eyes bubbled. We had legged it together through miles of picture galleries, and I had visited classical concerts to an extent you would hardly believe. Therefore, I was not prepared to receive shocks, especially shocks like this. Honoria had brought me to lunch at Aunt Agatha's, and I had just been saying to myself, "Death, where is thy sting?" when she hove the bomb. "Bertie," she said suddenly, as if she had just remembered it, "what is the name of that man of yours, your valet?" Jeeves. I think he has a bad influence for you. When we are married, you must get rid of Jeeves." "Get rid of Jeeves?" "Yes. I don't like him." "I don't like him," said Aunt Agatha. "But I can't. I mean, why? I couldn't carry on for a day without a Jeeves." "You will have to." "I don't like him at all." "What? I'd always had an idea that marriage was a terrible thing, but I'd never dreamed that it demanded such frightful sacrifices from a fellow." When Honoria got up and started collecting me and the rest of her things, Aunt Agatha stopped her. "You run along, dear. I want to say a few things to Bertie." So Honoria went away, and Aunt Agatha drew up her chair and began. "Bertie, dear Honoria doesn't know it, but a little difficulty has arisen about your marriage." "Really?" I said, hoping. "Oh, it's nothing at all, of course. The fact is, Sir Roderick is rather troublesome. He thinks I'm not a good husband. Well, perhaps he's right." "Pray do not be so absurd, Bertie. It is nothing as serious as that. But the nature of Sir Roderick's profession unfortunately makes him overcautious." I didn't get it. Overcautious? Yes, I suppose it is inevitable. A nerve specialist with his extensive practice has a rather special view of humanity. I understood. Sir Roderick Glossop, Honoria's father, is always called a nerve specialist because it sounds better. But everybody knows that he's really a janitor to the loony bin. I mean to say, when your uncle begins to stick straws in his hair, old Glossop is the first person you send for. He arrives, examines the patients, talks about overexcited nervous system, and recommends complete rest and seclusion, and all that sort of thing. Practically every posh family in the country has called him in at one time or another, and I suppose that he has begun to suspect everybody. You mean he thinks I may be crazy, and he doesn't want a crazy son-in-law?" I said. Aunt Agatha seemed rather peeved at my intelligence. "Of course, he doesn't think anything so ridiculous. I told you he was simply exceedingly cautious. He wants to satisfy himself that you are perfectly normal." Here she paused, for Spencer had come in with the coffee. When he had gone, she went on. "He heard an extraordinary story about your having pushed his son Oswald into the lake at Ditteridge Hall. Incredible, of course. Even you would hardly do a thing like that." "Well, I leaned over to him, when he fell into the water. Oswald definitely accuses you of having pushed him into the water. That has disturbed Sir Roderick, and unfortunately he has heard about your poor Uncle Henry." She looked at me, and I took a sip of coffee. "Our family has a good old skeleton in the cupboard. My late Uncle Henry, you see, was the blot on the Wooster's escutcheon. An extremely good fellow. Personally, he did at times strange things. For example, he was keeping 11 pet rabbits in his bedroom. In fact, to be perfectly frank, he ended his career in some clinic. It is very absurd, of course. If any of the family had inherited poor Henry's eccentricity, and it was nothing more, it would have been Claude and Eustace, and there could not be two brighter boys. Claude and Eustace were twins. It seemed to me that bright described them well. They were real daredevils. Look how well they are doing at Oxford. You had a letter from Claude only saying that they hoped to be elected shortly to a very important college club called the Seekers." "Seekers?" "I couldn't recall any club of that name in my time at Oxford. What do they seek?" "Claude did not say. Truth or knowledge, I should imagine. It is a very desirable club to belong to. For Claude added that Lord Rainsby, the Earl of Datchet's son, was one of his fellow candidates. However, we are wandering from the point, which is that Sir Roderick wants to have a quiet talk with you alone. Now I rely on you, Bertie, to be, I won't say intelligent, but at least sensible. Don't giggle nervously. Try to keep that horrible expression out of your eyes. Don't yawn or fidget. And remember that Sir Roderick is the president of the West London's branch of the Anti-Gambling League, so please don't talk about horse racing. He will lunch with you at your flat tomorrow at 1:30. Please remember that he drinks no wine, strongly disapproves of smoking, and can only eat the simplest food. Don't offer him coffee, for he considers it the root of half nerve trouble in the world. I should think of a dog biscuit and a glass of water would about meet the case. Bertie! Oh, all right. Merely persiflage. Now, it is precisely that idiotic remarks will arouse Sir Roderick's worst suspicions. Do please try to refrain from any flippancy when you are with him. He's a very serious-minded man. Are you going? Well, please remember all I have said. I rely on you, and if anything goes wrong, I shall never forgive you. Right. And I went home. I breakfasted pretty late next morning and went for a stroll afterwards. I had taken a stroll in the park and got back as far as Hyde Park Corner, when some blighter sloshed me between the shoulder blades. It was young Eustace, my cousin. He was with two other fellows. The one was my cousin Claude, and the other fellows, and the other one in the middle, a pink-faced yellow with light hair. Bertie, old man, said young Eustace affably. Hello. Nice to meet you here. By the way, you have never met the old dog-face, have you? Dog-face, this is my cousin Bertie. Lord Rainsby, Mr. Wooster. We've just been round to your flat, Bertie. Bitterly disappointed that we were out, but were hospitably entertained by old Jeeves. That man is a real treasure. You in London? I asked. Oh, we're just up for the day. We go back on the 3:10. And now let's talk about lunch you invite us to. Where will it be? Ritz? Savoy? I can't give you lunch. I've got an engagement myself, I said, taking a look. I'm late. I hailed a taxi. Sorry. In this case, lend us a fiver. I hadn't time to stop and argue. I gave them the fiver and hopped into the cab. It was 22 when I got to the flat. I bounded into the sitting room, but it was empty. Jeeves shimmied in. Sir Roderick has not yet arrived, sir. Good Lord. I said I thought I should find him smashing up the furniture. My experience is that the less you want a fellow, the more punctual he's bound to be. I suppose you will find the arrangements quite satisfactory, sir. What are you giving us? Cold consommé, a cutlet, and savoury, sir, with the lemon squash, iced. Well, I don't see how that can hurt him, but don't bring coffee. No, sir. And don't look mad, because if you do, you will find yourself in an asylum where you are. Very good, sir. There was a ring at the bell. Let's go, Jeeves.